The steady beep of medical equipment filled the sterile hospital room as Olivia Brennan slowly opened her eyes. The harsh fluorescent lights made her squint, and a dull ache throbbed at the base of her skull. Confusion washed over her as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. A nurse noticed her stirring and quickly approached the bedside. "Mrs. Brennan, you're awake. How are you feeling?" Olivia blinked, her brow furrowing. I'm not sure. Where am I? What happened?" The nurse's expression softened with concern. "You're in St. Mary's Hospital. You were in a car accident 3 days ago. Do you remember anything about it?" Olivia searched her mind, but everything was a blank. She shook her head slightly, wincing at the pain the movement caused. "No, I can't remember anything. Not just about the accident, but anything at all. Who am I? Why did you call me Mrs. Brennan?" The nurse's eyes widened, and she quickly pressed a button to call for the doctor. "Try to stay calm, Mrs. Brennan. The doctor will be here shortly to explain everything." Panic began to rise in Olivia's chest as the reality of her situation set in. She had no memories, no sense of self, nothing to anchor her to the world around her. It was as if she had been born anew in that hospital bed, a blank slate with no past to draw upon. Dr. Amelia Chen entered the room, her white coat crisp and her manner efficient yet kind. "Mrs. Brennan, I'm Dr. Chen. I understand you're experiencing some memory loss. Can you tell me the last thing you remember?" Olivia shook her head again, tears welling up in her eyes. "Nothing. I don't remember anything. It's all just gone." Dr. Chen nodded, making notes on her tablet. "You've suffered a severe concussion, which has resulted in retrograde amnesia. It's not uncommon in cases like yours, but the extent of your memory loss is significant. We'll need to run some more tests to determine the full scope of the damage." As Dr. Chen explained the battery of tests Olivia would need to undergo, a commotion in the hallway caught their attention. A man's voice, urgent and insistent, could be heard arguing with hospital staff. "That's my wife in there. I don't care about your visiting hours policy. I need to see her now." Dr. Chen excused herself and stepped into the hallway. Olivia strained to hear the conversation, catching snippets about her condition and the man's identity. After a few moments, Dr. Chen returned, looking slightly flustered. "Mrs. Brennan, there's someone here to see you. He claims to be your husband. Given your condition, I wanted to check with you first before allowing him in. Do you feel up to having a visitor?" Olivia hesitated. The idea of a husband she couldn't remember was both thrilling and terrifying. Would seeing him jog her memory? Or would he be just another stranger in a world that no longer made sense to her? I suppose so," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Chen nodded and opened the door. A man in his mid-30s stepped into the room, his face a mixture of relief and apprehension. He was handsome, with kind brown eyes and a strong jawline. His clothes were rumpled, as if he had slept in them, and dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't rested much in recent days. "Liv," he breathed, rushing to her bedside. He reached for her hand, but stopped short when he saw her flinch away. "I'm sorry. They told me you might not remember. It's me, Connor, your husband." Olivia studied his face, desperately searching for any hint of familiarity. But there was nothing. He was a complete stranger to her. "I'm sorry," she said softly, hating the hurt she saw flash across his features. I can't remember anything, or anyone." Connor nodded, swallowing hard. "It's okay, Liv. The doctor said this might happen. But I'm here for you, okay? We'll get through this together. I promise." As Connor pulled up a chair beside her bed, Olivia felt a strange mix of emotions. Gratitude for this man's obvious care and devotion, fear of the unknown future stretching out before her, and a deep, aching sadness for the life and memories she had lost. Over the next few days, Connor was a constant presence at Olivia's side. He brought her favorite foods, which she had to take his word for, read to her from books he said she loved, and patiently answered her endless questions about their life together. According to Connor, they had been married for 5 years, having met in college where Olivia studied art history, and Connor pursued a degree in engineering. They lived in a cozy apartment in the city with their cat, Milo. Olivia worked as a curator at a small gallery, while Connor had recently started his own tech startup. As Olivia listened to these stories of her life, she felt a disconnect. It all sounded nice, even idyllic, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She couldn't put her finger on it, but there was a nagging doubt in the back of her mind that wouldn't go away. One afternoon, as Connor was showing her photos on his phone of their supposed life together, Olivia noticed something strange. In every picture, she was smiling, but it never quite reached her eyes. And there was a tension in her posture, a slight leaning away from Connor that seemed at odds with the happy couple narrative he was spinning. "Connor?" she said hesitantly, interrupting his story about their last vacation. "Can I ask you something?" He looked up, his smile warm and encouraging. "Of course, Liv. Anything." Olivia took a deep breath, steeling herself. Were we happy? Before the accident, I mean. These pictures, I don't look as happy as you're describing." Connor's smile faltered for just a moment before he recovered. "Of course we were happy, Liv. Every couple has their ups and downs, but we love each other. That's what matters." Before Olivia could press further, a nurse entered to take her vitals and administer her evening medication. By the time she left, Connor had smoothly changed the subject, regaling Olivia with stories of their early dating days. That night, after Connor had gone home and the hospital had quieted, Olivia lay awake, her mind churning. Something about Connor's reaction to her question had unsettled her. It wasn't just what he had said, but the way he had said it. There had been a hint of desperation? Fear? She couldn't quite place it, but it left her feeling uneasy. As she drifted off into a fitful sleep, fragmented images flashed through her mind. A heated argument in a kitchen she didn't recognize. Tears streaming down her face as she packed a suitcase. A hand gripping her arm too tightly, leaving bruises. Olivia woke with a start, her heart racing. Were these memories breaking through, or just dreams conjured by her anxious mind? She couldn't be sure, but the lingering sense of fear and sadness felt all too real. The next morning, as Olivia picked at her bland hospital breakfast, a gentle knock at the door caught her attention. A woman with short, spiky hair and vibrant green eyes peeked in, her face lighting up when she saw Olivia. "Oh, thank God you're awake," the woman said, rushing to Olivia's bedside. "I've been trying to get in to see you for days, but they would only allow family." Olivia stared at the stranger, a flicker of recognition sparking in the back of her mind. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" The woman's face fell slightly, but she quickly composed herself. "Right. They said you might not remember. I'm Zoe, your best friend? And your girlfriend." Olivia's jaw dropped. "My girlfriend? But I thought Connor said we're married." Zoe's expression darkened. "Connor. Of course he'd try to worm his way back in while you're vulnerable. Liv, honey, you left him 6 months ago. You've been living with me ever since." As Zoe began to explain the reality of Olivia's life, a reality very different from the one Connor had painted, Olivia felt as if the ground was shifting beneath her. Who was telling the truth? Who could she trust when she couldn't even trust her own mind? Olivia's head spun as she tried to process this new information. "I don't understand," she said, her voice trembling. "Why would Connor lie to me? And if what you're saying is true, why didn't anyone tell me?" Zoe took Olivia's hand, her touch gentle and familiar in a way Olivia couldn't quite place. "Connor's always been manipulative, Liv. When you left him, he threatened to ruin your career, to turn all your friends against you. We've been keeping a low profile, trying to build a case against him. And as for the hospital, well, legally, he's still your next of kin. They had no reason to doubt him. As Zoe spoke, more fragments of memory began to surface in Olivia's mind. Late nights crying on Zoe's shoulder, the freedom she felt when she finally moved out of Connor's apartment, stolen kisses in the park where they thought no one would see them. I think I remember some things, Olivia said slowly. But it's all so jumbled. I don't know what's real and what isn't. Zoe squeezed her hand reassuringly. It's okay, Liv. We'll figure this out together. The important thing is that you're safe now. Just then, the door opened and Connor walked in. His eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed in anger when he saw Zoe. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. Zoe stood up, positioning herself between Connor and Olivia's bed. "I'm here for Liv, Connor. Your little charade is over." Connor's face contorted with rage. "You have no right to be here. Olivia is my wife, and you're nothing but a phase she was going through. A mistake." As the two argued, their voices rising, Olivia felt a searing pain in her head. Suddenly, memories came flooding back in a torrent, not just of the past 6 months with Zoe, but of years of emotional abuse at Connor's hands. The constant criticism, the gaslighting, the way he isolated her from friends and family. "Stop it!" Olivia cried out, her voice stronger than it had been since she woke up. "Both of you, just stop!" Connor and Zoe fell silent, turning to look at her in surprise. "I remember," Olivia said, tears streaming down her face. "I remember everything. Connor, how could you? How could you take advantage of me like this?" Connor's expression shifted, a mask of concern sliding into place. "Liv, honey, you're confused. The accident, the medication, you're not thinking clearly. Whatever you think you remember, it's not real." But Olivia shook her head, a newfound strength in her voice. "No, Connor, I'm not confused. Not anymore. I remember the night I left you, how you threw a vase at my head when I told you I was done. I remember changing my phone number, staying with Zoe because I was terrified you'd find me. It's over, Connor. For real this time." Connor's facade crumbled, revealing the anger simmering beneath. "You ungrateful bitch," he snarled. "After everything I've done for you, you'd be nothing without me." Before anyone could react, Connor lunged forward, his hands reaching for Olivia's throat. But Zoe was faster. She tackled him, sending them both crashing to the floor. The commotion brought hospital security running. Within moments, Connor was restrained and being led away, shouting threats and obscenities as he went. As the chaos subsided, Olivia felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. Zoe returned to her side, her face etched with concern. "Are you okay, Liv? Did he hurt you?" Olivia shook her head, managing a weak smile. "I'm okay. Thanks to you. I can't believe I forgot you. Forgot us." Zoe's eyes welled up with tears as she gently stroked Olivia's hair. "Hey, none of that matters now. You remembered when it counted. And I'm not going anywhere, I promise." Over the next few weeks, as Olivia recovered both physically and emotionally, more memories continued to surface. She remembered the day she met Zoe at an art exhibition, the instant connection they felt. She remembered their first kiss, tentative and sweet, on a rainy afternoon in Zoe's tiny studio apartment. And she remembered the strength she found within herself to leave Connor, to choose happiness and self-respect over the familiar comfort of an unhealthy relationship. Dr. Chen explained that Olivia's amnesia had likely been exacerbated by the emotional trauma of seeing Connor again. The shock of his presence had caused her mind to temporarily block out the painful memories associated with him. But with time and the supportive presence of Zoe, those mental barriers had begun to crumble. As Olivia prepared to leave the hospital, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The world outside those walls seemed both familiar and strange, a place she knew but didn't fully trust herself in yet. "Ready to go home?" Zoe asked, helping Olivia into a wheelchair as per hospital policy. Olivia nodded, taking a deep breath. "I think so. It's just, So much has changed. Or rather, I've changed. I'm not the same person I was before the accident. Zoe knelt down in front of her, taking both of Olivia's hands in her own. Listen to me, Liv. You are still you. Stronger, maybe. Wiser, definitely. But at your core, you're still the amazing woman I fell in love with. And we're going to get through this together, okay? Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes as she nodded. Okay, she whispered. As they left the hospital, stepping out into the warm sunshine, Olivia felt a sense of hope blossoming in her chest. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. She knew there would be challenges as she reintegrated into her life, as she dealt with the legal aftermath of Connor's actions, as she and Zoe navigated this new chapter in their relationship. But for the first time since she had woken up in that hospital bed, Olivia felt truly alive. She had faced her darkest fears, confronted the lies that had nearly consumed her, and emerged stronger for it. As Zoe helped her into the car, Olivia caught sight of their reflection in the window. Two women, battle-worn but unbroken, ready to face whatever came next. And in that moment, Olivia knew that no matter what memories she had lost, the ones she would make from this day forward would be more precious than any that had come before. The drive home was a journey of rediscovery for Olivia. As they wound through the city streets, familiar landmarks triggered small bursts of memory. The cafe where she and Zoe had their first date, the gallery where she worked, the park where they often spent lazy Sunday afternoons. When they finally arrived at Zoe's apartment, their apartment, Olivia reminded herself, a wave of emotion washed over her. Standing in the doorway, she took in the eclectic decor, the walls adorned with a mix of her own paintings and Zoe's photographs. It felt like home in a way that Connor's sterile, magazine-perfect apartment never had. "Welcome home, love," Zoe said softly, giving Olivia's hand a gentle squeeze. As they settled in, Olivia found herself drawn to a corkboard hanging in the kitchen. It was covered in photos, ticket stubs, and little notes, a collage of their life together. Her fingers traced over the images, each one sparking a memory. There they were at a music festival, Zoe on Olivia's shoulders, both of them laughing. A candid shot of Olivia painting, her face scrunched in concentration. The two of them on a hike, windswept and happy at the summit of a mountain. "I remember this day," Olivia said, pointing to a photo of them at a New Year's Eve party. "You wore that ridiculous light-up headband, and I pretended to be embarrassed, but really I thought you were adorable." Zoe chuckled, wrapping her arms around Olivia from behind. "And I remember thinking how lucky I was to be starting the new year with you." As the days passed, Olivia slowly reacclimated to her life. She began seeing a therapist to work through the trauma of her relationship with Connor and the lingering effects of her memory loss. Zoe was a constant source of support, patient and understanding, even on the days when Olivia felt frustrated by the gaps that still existed in her memory. One evening, about a month after returning home, Olivia was sorting through a box of old sketches when she came across a drawing that made her breath catch. It was a portrait of Connor, done early in their relationship. In it, his eyes were kind, his smile gentle, a far cry from the man she now knew him to be. "Zoe," she called out, her voice shaky. "Can you come here for a minute?" Zoe appeared in the doorway, concern etched on her face. "What is it, Liv? Are you okay?" Olivia held up the sketch. I don't understand. How did I not see it? How did I stay with him for so long when he was so awful?" Zoe sat down beside her, gently taking the drawing and setting it aside. "Oh, honey, abusers like Connor, they don't start out awful. They're charming, they make you feel special. And then they change so gradually that you don't even notice until you're in too deep." Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes. "I feel so stupid, like I wasted so many years of my life." Zoe pulled her close, stroking her hair. "You are not stupid, Liv. You're one of the smartest, strongest people I know. You got out. You survived. And now you're thriving. That's what matters. As Olivia cried in Zoe's arms, she felt something shift inside her. The shame and self-doubt that had been lingering since she regained her memories began to dissipate, replaced by a growing sense of pride in her own resilience. The next day, Olivia made a decision. She gathered up all the mementos of her relationship with Connor, photos, gifts, that old sketch, and took them out to the building's courtyard. With Zoe by her side, she lit a small fire in the barbecue pit and began to burn it all. As she watched the flames consume the physical remnants of that chapter of her life, Olivia felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. She turned to Zoe, a smile breaking through her tears. "Thank you," she said softly, "for being here, for believing in me, for loving me through all of this." Zoe pulled her close, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "Always, Liv. You're stuck with me, remember?" As the last of the mementos turned to ash, Olivia felt a sense of renewal washing over her. The past few months had been a journey through darkness, filled with lies, manipulation, and lost memories. But standing there in the fading light, with Zoe's arms around her, Olivia knew she had found her way back to the truth, not just about her past, but about herself. She was not defined by what Connor had done to her, nor by the memories she had lost. She was defined by her strength, her resilience, and the love she had found with Zoe. And that was a truth worth holding on to. In the months that followed, Olivia threw herself into her art with renewed passion. Her experiences had given her a new perspective, and her paintings took on a depth and emotional resonance that caught the attention of gallery owners and critics alike. Zoe, ever supportive, suggested they collaborate on a project. Olivia's paintings paired with Zoe's photographs, exploring themes of memory, identity, and rebirth. The exhibition, titled Fragments of Truth, became the talk of the local art scene. On opening night, as Olivia stood in the crowded gallery, surrounded by her work and the people she loved, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. Her eyes met Zoe's across the room, and in that moment, she knew that this life, this love, this version of herself, was exactly where she was meant to be. Later that night, as they walked home hand in hand, Olivia stopped suddenly, turning to face Zoe. "I love you," she said, the words carrying the weight of everything they'd been through together. "I love you, and I remember loving you, and I choose to keep loving you every day." Zoe's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she pulled Olivia close. "I love you too, Liv. Always have. Always will." As they kissed under the starlit sky, Olivia knew that while her journey of healing and rediscovery was far from over, she had everything she needed to face whatever came next. She had her art, her strength, and most importantly, she had Zoe, her anchor, her home, her truth in a world that had once been filled with lies. The accident that had stolen her memories had also, in a strange way, given her a second chance at life. A chance to rewrite her story, to choose love and authenticity over fear and pretense. And as Olivia looked towards the future, she knew that this time, she would fill every page with vibrant color, unshakable truth, and boundless love.